Good afternoon, listeners. Good afternoon to all the Diamond Girls Rock podcast listeners. This afternoon, we have a very special guest who has a unique business that I'm sure plenty of our listeners would love to hear about. So, without further delay, good afternoon, Miss LaToya Jackson.
Good afternoon. How are you? How are you? Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to speak to your listeners.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for accepting my invite. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. I know you're from Cleveland, Ohio.
hmm Yes. So I was originally born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, by a single mom. My dad passed away at 2 years old from cancer, and I pretty much grew up in the inner city. I grew up very poor. Grew up as a single mom, and at a young age, I decided that I wanted something better of myself versus the surroundings that I grew up in, and so I went to the Ohio State University. And when I was there, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that book talks all about real estate and how you can make, all of this money in real estate. And that was my first introduction to it, because I don't come from a family of wealth or business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors. I don't have any of that in my family. And so I was like, wow, this is something I could do. And I didn't explore it then, right? I just got my degree in business administration, and I became a sales rep. I did that, 15 years business to business sales at different companies. And so one job that I got with Michelin Tire Company, they relocated me from the Ohio area to the DC area. And once I moved there, I was like, oh, this would be a great time to get back to that book and get into real estate. So I got my license. I was working my job full time, and I, sold properties, nights and weekends, and I would work with a lot of investors. And when we would go to the closing table and you look at the HUD-1 statement, my commission might be, $3,000 to $5,000 that I got to split with a broker. And then the investor is walking away with like $51,000. I'm like, I helped you find a house. Why is my cut not bigger? And so after I started to work with a lot of investors, I'm like, I want to be on that side of the real estate transaction. I don't necessarily want to help you find deals. I want to find them myself and make profit myself. And so
Okay,
that
okay.
was
I'm going to interject
okay. Go ahead.
right there. So, you can say to our listeners that one, you're the first in your family. So, you broke all chains. You're the first in your family to go to Ohio State University, the first in your family to start and learn about wealth.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when you grow up in the inner city and urban communities, there's just not a whole lot of exposure to various things that's going to help you improve your situation, right? You're not having conversations about generational wealth. You're not having conversations about stocks, bonds, and real estate, right? It's just you get that same advice: go to school, get good grades, get a good job.
Hmm.
Hopefully, it works out for you,
Right.
right? We're not really taught that there's so many other ways that we can so many different things that we can do to improve our situations. And for me, I wanted to be that example, but also go back and help my people in our
So,
communities so that they can become educated and improve their lives as well.
okay. LaToya, you don't mind if I call you LaToya?
That's fine.
Okay. LaToya, I want to congratulate you on doing a phenomenal job. As you said, many people in urban communities don't have that opportunity. They don't have the exposure. So, what ignited that exposure? Was it when you went to college or you were reading before? What
It was that
ignited that?
book. It was that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. In the subtitle, it says what the rich people teach their kids that the poor and the middle class do not learn, right? So if you come from a wealthy family and a wealthy background, you're learning things that, people who don't come from that don't know. You're not having conversations about various life insurance policies and how that can benefit you when someone passes away. You're not having
Mhm.
conversations about stocks, bonds, and real estate. You're not working in a business. A lot of people, their family owned businesses and their kids grow up in the business, so they understand how to run a business when they become a successful adult. I didn't have any of that. So that book opened my eyes to many different possibilities that I just had no clue about. Other than watching some things here and there on
Mhm.
TV, nobody ever explained it to me or broke it down to me that way, right? If you are living in a poor community, you're not going to get advice on how to get out of that. Your parents are teaching you the best that they know, right? My mother barely got a high school education, and she worked minimum wage jobs to take care of me when my dad passed from cancer. So she taught me all that she knows, which is go to school, get a good job, and
Right.
hopefully, have more opportunities for yourself than I had growing up. And so for
Hmm.
me, I wanted to expand on that. So once I read that book, even though I didn't take action right then, because I just went in the corporate world, went in corporate America for 15 years. It wasn't until I moved to the DC area, I was like, okay, now I'm going to take action from this book, and I'm going to get educated, and I'm going to learn about this industry. And then the job moved me from the DC area to the Chicago area. And when I moved here, I had a choice. Do I want to go back and get my real estate license? Because it doesn't transfer between states. Or do I just want to be an investor? You can be an investor without a license. So
Hmm.
because I traveled a lot for work in between 3 states, I was like, I'm not going to go back to real estate school. I can't show a property in Chicago if I'm working in Michigan for the week. So that was out. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to invest. I'm going to just put my all into it. So I attended workshops, I attended seminars, I began networking with people that were doing deals in Chicago. And then I partnered with some people and we started to do some deals. So that's how I got started.
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
it all that's how it all happened.
So the name of your company is Excel Capital Group. How did you come
Yes,
up with that name?
because I want to excel your business to the next level. That's where the name comes from. But the reason that I created the company was because, I was in real estate and I raised over $2 million to do various types of deals. So everything from, buy and hold, fix and flips, mixed use commercial, Airbnb, different types of real estate strategies. You have to know various ways to get funding, right? Because as you
Hmm.
want your portfolio to grow, you're going to need to tap into more money. So I learned all about various types of funding, whether it was, the traditional type of loans that you can get, or conventional type of loans, or raising money with 401ks and IRAs, or using business credit. Out of that $2 million, 350,000 of that was business credit, or learning about hard money loans, or learning about raising funds with investors and providing a return. So for me, I learned from working in this real estate industry that there's various ways to obtain capital for your business. And what
Hmm.
happened was I went to a seminar. It was like a women empowerment seminar, and this woman raised her hand. She said, what is a DUNS number, and how can I use that to obtain funding for my business? And so the CPA who was there, she answered the question. She was like, you don't need a DUNS number. You just need you need a 720 credit score across all three credit bureaus. You need your personal tax returns. You need your business tax returns. You need your profit and loss statements. You need to be in business at least 2 years. And if the loan is over $25,000, you got to have collateral.
Okay, well, let's back up a minute.
Right. But I sat there and I'm like, well, that's not 100% true, right?
Right.
2 years. I was in business 2 months and I got $40,000 in business credit within 2 weeks. So I knew that although what the woman was saying is true, if you go to a bank, yes, they're going to want you to do a personal guarantee. And yes, they're going to
Hmm.
want you to, use collateral and various assets to back the loan. That's not the only way that you can get funding. So
Well,
that's when it
let me ask you this, not slow you down 1 minute so our listeners can get it.
kind of,
Tell our listeners about, name the types of various fundings and give them a little synopsis of each. Because someone that's coming may be in the field of medical field
right.
or engineer. They don't know the lingo. You're a professional and this rolls right off of you, you know, because you know what you're speaking about, because this is your field.
Uh-huh.
Give them, educate them a little bit on what you're talking about when you mean various types, because some people listening don't know the difference between a 401 or pulling money out your 401k or your IRA to get a flip property. So explain it versus them going to the bank trying to get a FHA loan. Can you break that down for them?
Right. So there are various ways to obtain funding for your business. It doesn't matter if you're in real estate, it doesn't matter if you're in the beauty industry, right? There's various sources of capital. And what I do at Excel Capital Group is I do two things. I either help you build business credit with your EIN or I help you obtain financing. Okay. what a lot of people don't realize is that there are more lenders out here that will give you capital that do not require the strict requirements that a bank do, right? A bank
Mhm.
is going to want a personal guarantee. They're going to want to see your revenues. You're going to have to be in business 2 years, all of that, right? And so, right, you're going to have the three C's: the credit, the capital, and the collateral, right? If
Cattle.
you don't have at
Right.
least 2 or 3 of those, you're probably not going to get a loan from a bank. Now, with everything that happened with COVID, that changed a little bit because they did have the EIDL and the payroll protection, and they kind of lowered those requirements that they normally have in order to help businesses out with this pandemic. So, they did do that to help entrepreneurs. But outside of that, there are lenders that are not traditional that can help you get funding. So let me kind of break down some of the sources. And I talk more about this on my Facebook page, my YouTube page. If you ever want videos or explanations, I can go into more detail. But I'm gonna start off with the first one, which is business credit. So there are two ways that you can get business credit. But before I go into that, what is business credit? Business credit is basically credit in the company name, right? Just
Mhm.
like on the personal side, you got many trade lines, you got a personal credit score. Same thing on the business side. You create a business profile, you establish some trade lines within your profile, and then you can start to obtain, funding that your business can qualify for. Like if you want a company car with your EIN, you could do that. If you want to get business credit cards that you don't have to personally guarantee, you could do that. If you follow the process and you know what you're doing. Okay. So, two ways to get business credit. One way is to leverage a personal credit score. So, if you have a 700 score or higher, you can get business credit cards within 2 weeks. All you need is your entity set up, your 700 score across all three credit bureaus, and a strong credit profile. So, a strong credit profile means no bankruptcies, no judgments, no liens, no foreclosures, right? So, if you got a 700 credit score and you want to obtain business credit, you can get that. The interest rate is normally, 0%, anywhere from 6 to 12 months. You don't have
Mhm.
to be seasoned, right? You don't have to be in business 2 years. You can start your company tomorrow, get everything set up. And as long as you have that score and that profile, you can
You can
qualify
get to
for business
credit.
credit cards. Right. So that's one way to do it. And there's pros and cons to that, right? So that's one way if you want to leverage your personal credit score to obtain business credit. The other way to do it is with your EIN. And so with your EIN, there are 4 tiers to building business credit. So look at it like school, right? You start off at elementary school, then you go to middle school, then you go to, high school, and then you go to college. And after
College.
college, you're
Mhm.
supposed to get this great job to pay all the student loan debt back, right? But look at business credit in the same way. So it's 4 tiers to building business credit. The first tier is the smaller tier. You're going to start off with smaller trade lines, right? They don't know you, and you're not personally guaranteeing it. So you got to have some things set up the correct way. And they're going to start you off with smaller lines in the beginning. If you prove yourself that you can buy something and pay for something and continue to do that, then you're going to get a good business credit score. So
Mhm.
start off with the smaller vendors and suppliers such as Quill and Uline. Then you work your way up to tier 2 and tier 3, which is more fleet, more revolving store accounts. And then the top level is tier 4, and that's when your business can start to qualify for those business credit cards, your American Express, your Visas, on its own, that you don't have to personally guarantee. Or if you want a company car with your EIN, or you want to lease a car in your company name, right? Lenders on the business credit side, they want to see the same things, that you have many trade lines established with your
Mhm.
business, both revolving, both vendor accounts as well. They want to see that you're responsible with handling this debt, because that's going to determine whether that, what they're going to lend to you for. So
Right.
basically, there's a process of building business credit. It does take a while.
Mhm.
It could, industry experts say it could take a year or two. I have a program to show you how to do it in less than 6 months. But that's the two ways to do business credit. You either going to leverage your personal credit score of 700 or more, or you're going to work to establish trade lines with your EIN so that your company can start to qualify for, business credit cards and different things like that. So that's two funding sources. Another source that people use is called, you can get a checkbook business line of credit. Now, that is for an established entrepreneur. You have to be in business more 2 years. That's kind of similar to that bank example. So if you have those 250K gross in revenue, you've been in business 2 years, you got at least a 670 score, you could qualify for a checkbook business line of credit. So that's another way that people get capital. And again, that's another source. So then you have things such as 401ks and IRAs. You can pull from that to invest in real estate, right? And there are certain, tax advantages to doing it that way. And I've raised funds doing that. Some people, when they partner with us, there's like, or when I was doing that in the past, basically there's three different ways people can partner with you to do real estate deals. Sometimes they do it with cash. Sometimes people do it with 401k and IRAs. Sometimes people do it with credit. Leverage your great credit, get business credit, partner on a deal, get a return. So those are just some basic ways, but there are many ways outside of that. Like, for example, let's say that, you are a hairstylist and,
Mm-hmm.
your customers pay you, with credit cards, and PayPal is your, payment processor. And many people don't realize they offer working capital loans, not based on a personal guarantee. They base it on the amount of transactions that you have coming through with your payment processor. And they will give you a working capital loan. What I love about it is it's a one-time transaction fee. There's no additional fees after that. So there's no interest, there's no early prepayment penalty, and it's in your business name. You don't have to leverage your personal credit score at all. What I also love about it is how you pay it back. You don't have to pay it all up front. It's not a monthly payment type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, okay, your business, based on the transactions that you've done through this processor, your business can qualify for up to 10,000, right? You can choose, do you want 2,000? You don't have to take the whole amount, right? So you could choose the amount, and then on there, you could choose how you pay it back. You might choose 10%, 20%, or 30% of your customer payments to you to pay back that loan. And if you
And
haven't
that's a
made
good
a payment,
way.
yeah, if you haven't made a payment within 90 days, then you have to make a payment at that time. So if your business is seasonal or business is slow, it's another great option for you. So there are tons of ways
Many
to have support your
avenues.
business. And right now, with everything that's going on with COVID, it's more important than ever to have your business credit in order, because you're going to need access to capital. Just because we're in a pandemic doesn't mean that business owners don't have expenses. If you were ordered to shut down, you may still have rent, you may still have utilities, you may still have things that you have to pay for. And so you still may need access to capital. And that's why you need to be aware of all of the options. Not only that, grants. There
Oh,
are so
yes.
many grants. I just got awarded a grant from the Chicago Urban League, right? And they sent me an email like, hey, you won this grant, but you got to be set up in the right order, right? Because that's another thing we learned with this pandemic. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have their business set up the correct way in order to get funding, right? We're leaving all of
Mm-hmm.
this money on the table because we didn't set our things up correctly. And I'll give you an example.
Wait, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Give that example to in the pandemic. Right now, we have hairdressers, daycare centers, ladies that own the daycare centers. They're doing hails, and then we have nail techs. Now, how can you help those self-employed individuals set themselves up to get a grant, like you said, and to establish the funding?
Great question. So, first of all, you want to set up your business the correct way so that you can position yourself to get funding. A lot of business owners do not set themselves up the correct way from the very beginning. And it's not their fault. They may not know, right?
No.
You might have a
Mm-hmm.
hot product, you might have a hot service, and you're ready to start making this revenue, but you forget, oh, I got to do my EIN, I got to do my entity, right? So let me tell you why that is so very important. So I had a customer, an entrepreneur, she reached out to me and she said, hey, I make $10,000 a month in my business and I need access to more capital. Can you help me? I said, sure. Just asked her three questions. I said, do you have your revenue going into a business bank account? She said, no. I said, okay. Do you have your entity set up? She says, no. I'm like, do you have your EIN set up? She was like, well, I didn't get around to doing that yet. Do you know how many doors you just closed because you didn't take those simple 3 steps?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, she made the revenue to qualify for capital. You can get revenue type of financing, right? Based on, the revenue that you're bringing in on a monthly basis. But because she didn't treat herself like a business, you now left that option on the table for someone else who may not make as much revenue as you, but they're set up the correct way. Even with the programs that came out in the pandemic, you didn't have your stuff set up the correct way. You couldn't take advantage of the EIDL grant or loan or the payroll protection. Some people hadn't done
Mm-hmm.
their taxes. Some people hadn't put themselves on payroll. Some people were paying people under the table, right? So
Right.
because they did not take those steps, you may have missed out on some serious money that, let me tell you something, the government is never going to give away money like this before without
No,
without
never.
qualifications. They're never going to say, oh, we'll give you $10,000. And I just, if this pandemic didn't teach entrepreneurs anything, is that you want to be set up the correct way so that you can take advantage of these funding opportunities. And not only funding when it comes to loans and financing, grants. If you are not set up as a business, you can't get the free money out here. Right. So
Hmm.
when I won a grant, they sent me an email like, you won, but you have to give us X, Y, and Z, or we won't give you this money and we'll go to the next runner up. So I had to give them my corporation papers, my articles of organization, had to show them my business bank statements, had to show them my
Hmm.
business. And like if I was not set up the correct way,
You would be denied the loan.
I would have been denied the grant. And so
Grant.
that's what I want entrepreneurs to learn from this pandemic is one, set yourself up to position yourself for funding and for grants. If you're not set up the correct way, you can't get business credit, you can't get SBA funding, you can't get loans. You know what I mean? You are leaving a lot of money on the table that could really help you grow and scale your business.
How long have you been in this business? Let our listeners know, how long have you been in business?
Well, I have been in this industry for 7 years.
Hmm.
And Excel Capital Group has been 1 year old. So prior to starting Excel Capital,
Congratulations.
thank you. Prior to starting Excel Capital Group, I was raising, funding for real estate deals. But then after that, after I went to that workshop and saw that lady ask that question and saw the response that she got from the CPA, that's when it hit me that people in real estate, we know about many types of financing because we got to be creative if we want to get more deals in a portfolio. In other industries, it might not be apparent. You might not be
Hmm.
aware of these lenders out here that don't have these strict requirements like these banks. And so that's why I started this company, is because I want to educate women, in our community and let them know, hey, there are other lenders outside of a bank that can help you get access to capital, because 90% of bank loans are declined, right? There's a lot
Yes.
of reasons why banks deny loans, right? A lot of times it's because you're not set up the right way, don't have enough revenue, haven't been in business long enough. All of those things, they want to protect their risk, right? And if they see that you're not in business for a long time, don't have substantial, revenue or cash flow coming in, that's why they ask you to pledge collateral or personal assets
Hmm.
to back the loan, because they want to reduce their risk of default. And so I believe that right now, especially in this time, business credit and other funding options is more important than ever, because at some point as an entrepreneur, you're going to need capital to grow. You're going to deplete your savings. You may run out of your own savings in retirement, right? What are you going to do then to continue to grow and scale your businesses? And these big corporations, they know the secrets to getting business credit.
Oh,
They know
yes. That's why they are
but
billion
this,
dollar
but
businesses.
this is why I don't understand why it's not taught in college. Like, I have a business degree, and never once was there a course on business credit or funding or financing. Now they'll teach you accounting and financing so that you can understand and read your financial statements. But if the majority of businesses fail due to lack of funding, why is there no course or education on that? Right? It's the same way with personal credit. It's because the credit card companies won't make money if they teach you
If
the game.
yes.
It's the same way on the business side. These big corporations, Staples, Facebook, Walmart, they all have business credit. Walmart has over 500 trade lines on their business Experian credit report. So what does that mean? So let me explain the significance of what that means. Okay. Walmart, biggest company in the world, 500 trade lines. So that means that they're buying things on credit. So let's say that they want to put some soap on their shelves from Procter and Gamble, right? Procter and Gamble will say, "Okay, I'll give you $5,000 worth of inventory, and I'll give you 90 days to pay it to me. I'll give you
Hmm.
net terms, right? That's when that's buying on credit. Meaning I'll give you the merchandise now, you pay for it later, whether it's a net 30, net 60, net 90." So say Walmart gets the product, put it on their shelf, and they add their profit to the price, and customers come in and pay for it, right? Then they're just taking the wholesale price and paying it to Procter and Gamble. They're controlling their cash flow.
Cash
If
flow.
you think about that,
Hmm.
you're not paying for anything on the shelves. Can you
Right.
imagine if you had a convenience store or grocery store and you got to fill it with all this inventory so that you can sell it and make a profit, but you don't have to pay all the inventory costs up front?
But see, I think that's what you're saying is even in high schools, they're not teaching personal
Oh,
finance.
I didn't learn about business credit until I got in the real estate industry when I moved here to Chicago. And I heard other real estate investors saying, oh, yeah, I use business credit on my real estate deals. I'm like, what's that? And how is that done? And
Right.
I learned about it and I did the same thing. So when we would get the business credit, I would use that for the renovations because your contractors and subcontractors, they take business credit card as a form of payment. If you need supplies, you can go to Home Depot.
Hmm.
You can get a business trade line with them, but you can also pay with business credit cards, right? So if a business credit card is 0% interest for 6 to 12 months, you literally can renovate your project at 0% interest. And if you sell it before then, you paying that off, you borrowed the money at 0%. So like that's how I used it in real estate. But I didn't learn that until I got around some other real estate investors and saw how they were raising funds for their deals. And so
So, okay.
so
I'm
yeah,
sorry. That
go
was,
ahead.
you just have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm trying to get the questions in so the listeners can pull from
Mhm.
you and contact you. Because I know with Diamond Girls listeners, our podcast, it's a lot of women that want to invest, that want to flip properties. So with those women wanting to invest and they don't know the terms like you do, the cash flow and behind the scenes, the net sales with the 30, 60, and 90. So what would you say to that woman who's maybe a teacher and her dream is to start becoming an investor? What would you say to her this evening?
If anybody wants to learn how to invest, the first thing I would say is to get educated. Get educated. Learn as much as you can before you try to do your first deal. You have got to educate yourself, or you can make a lot of mistakes and you can lose a lot of money. So, you want to learn from someone who has done it before. And so I invested tons of money in education, whether it was workshops, seminars, different programs to learn as much as I could. Now, granted, you can read a book, you can learn as much as you can, but you're not going to get the real experience until you actually do it, right? You can read books on riding a bike, but until you get on there and do it, you're not going to learn
Right.
to do it, right? And real estate is the same way. So, one, I would recommend getting educated, learn as much as you possibly can. Two, think about your team, right? Real estate doesn't just happen with you. Who's going to be your real estate agent to help you find great investment deals? Who is going to be your contractor? That is the number one thing that can make or break your deal. I mean, we had a contractor that we hired, paid him some money, and he filed bankruptcy and didn't
Oh
pay his
my
stuff.
goodness.
You know what I'm saying? So, who is your contractor? Vet your contractor.
Yes.
If you haven't learned anything else from this interview, your contractor is the most important piece to your real estate deal. But who else is on your team? Who is your real estate attorney? Making sure that all of your contracts are solid. Who is your inspector to make sure that you're buying a good deal? We had an
Hmm.
inspector tell us one time, like, yeah, this one is going to cost way more than your budget. Don't buy it,
Hmm.
right? Knowing your numbers up front, putting in that oops factor, right? Something always goes wrong on a project that you didn't
Yes,
expect
it does.
anticipate. Like on one of our deals, we had I'm trying to remember what it's called. We had to get something. It was like a $10,000 expense that we did not anticipate. A drain tile system, I believe that's what it was. Um, and we didn't expect, we didn't know. There are some
Hmm.
things that you can uncover, in an inspection, and there's some things you won't uncover until you open up the walls and see what else is going on. And so I would, recommend knowing your numbers backwards and forwards, having exit strategies. Okay, if this property does not sell at this price, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to rent it out? Are you on cash out refinance? You have to have multiple exit strategies because you don't
Hmm.
get stuck holding on to a property that is no longer, profitable for you, but costing you money every single month. So have those would be some steps that I would use to get started, maybe finding you a coach or a mentor or finding you a community. If you're going to partner with people, make sure you all are bringing different things to the table. Somebody might have the real estate experience, somebody might have the funding, so you got to bring something to the table. Maybe one person knows how to put the deal together, how to get it under contract, how to run the numbers. Maybe the next
Right. A
understands
diverse team.
right. And then the other person is the funding. Maybe they're the one that qualifies for the funding or they know how to raise capital. That's how we did it in our business. We all bought different, things to the table, and you want to have contracts up front. If things don't work out, what's going to happen? It's kind of like a prenup. Things don't work out in this business. If we lose money
Right. How
on
do
this
we
deal,
dissolve it?
how do we dissolve our partnership if this doesn't work out? What happens if you're unhappy with one person who didn't pull their weight? It could be all sorts of things that can go wrong. But I would say just
Okay.
get educated before you take action. Know your numbers. Put a great team together. Hire an amazing contractor.
Well,
Always
let's
three bids too, because if one
two
is
is
not close to the other two, then you know that person is not charging you a good price. And so I'll always get three bids and take action. But real estate, people try to encourage you to like quit your job, go do a full time. I did that. I don't encourage that at all. There are a lot of funding opportunities available for you if you are still at your 9 to 5, and you can use that to help you fund your deals. And then figure
okay.
out which one you want to do. Do you want to do fix and flips? Do you want to do rentals? Have a
Figure
strategy.
out what works for you.
Right. For me, it was I wanted multi-units. I'm gonna live in one unit, I'm gonna rent out the others. And I'm gonna keep doing that every 6 months, right? But when you're young, single, don't have no kids, that couldn't work for you, right? Or maybe you decide to build your portfolio another way. But that would be some advice that I would give to someone that's looking to start off in real estate.
Well, LaToya, you made the 40 and under 40 young business. Talk about that. Let's talk about some of your accolades and give you the recognition you so deserve this evening.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's give it up for her.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was nominated and recommended to the Young Women's Professional League here in Chicago, Illinois. It is a league of professional women. So in order to even get nominated, you have to be a woman who has excelled in your industry, whether you're a business professional, whether you're an entrepreneur. You have to give back to the community in order to be recognized. So it's been great. I mean, meeting the other women in the league, just networking and being able to know so many other great influential women in the
Hmm.
Chicago area. Doing a lot of events to help young girls. Like we did what's that? That's trunk drive. I think that's what that's called, where you donate all of these items for girls getting ready to go to college. We
Hmm.
had an event where we would talk to them and give them advice, like, "Hey, this is some things I wish I would have known before I went to college."
Right.
And some of the girls were crying, so you could tell like it made a tremendous impact into these young women's lives. Right, you're 18,
Hmm.
trying to figure out your next steps. What do you want to do with your life, and us just giving them advice on what we would do differently in college, or advice on careers once you graduate, how to navigate in the corporate world. And so we also do events to support young mothers. So it's a great organization. But you definitely have to be accomplished in order to get nominated and awarded into the leagues. So it was a huge accomplishment.
Well,
Something I'm proud of.
congratulations.
Thank you.
What would you say to your younger self?
Oh,
You
gee.
said you told the what would you say to your younger self if you can go back?
Okay, girl. um, you are going to make mistakes. Period.
Hmm.
I think I suffered from like this perfect trying to do things right. That whole perfect patty syndrome, right? We want to do everything right before we launch a business or before we get into a deal, and just recognize that mistakes are going to happen. The
Hmm.
best way for you to learn in life is to fail. Uh,
Hmm.
and life is all about how you recover from those failures. Failures can either make you or break you into the person that you are supposed to ultimately become. So some of the lessons that you are going to learn is going to be hard.
Hmm.
I want to give up. But you will survive, and you will learn, and you will be able to inspire and impact others.
All right.
So just go for it.
The unique skills. What unique skill you think you have that makes you a diamond? Your unique skill.
I would just say I'm a naturally driven person.
No, naturally
Some
driven.
some people growing up, they need a parent to kind of like push them, mold them, tell them what to do. And then other kids are like, yeah, I got this. So I would just say, and I don't know if that's because I'm a Capricorn, or I don't know. I've heard my dad was a very, driven person. I don't know, but I'm very driven and determined. So it doesn't matter what happened, doesn't matter how many times I get knocked down. Like I said, I've made mistakes. I am not perfect. Um, but just continuing the course no matter what.
Okay. Three things in your life that's important to you. Give us three things, our listeners.
Okay. Three things that's important to me. Number one is God. Nothing is possible without God. And um, God is definitely real. God will uncover some opportunities that you are not even aware of, and will have a dream that is bigger than you could have ever dreamed. Okay. So,
Hmm.
number one, you are co creating your life with God. Number two would be my mom. My mom is my everything. My mom,
Hmm.
had my mom was born and raised in Macon, Georgia. She grew up on a farm with like six sisters, seven brothers. They picked cotton from sun up to sundown. She moved to Ohio without a degree, without parents. And when my dad passed away, she and my sister's father passed away too, she had to make do, and she worked many, many low end jobs to take care of me and my sister. And I am forever grateful for that. As kids, we don't know or understand the sacrifices that our parents make to make sure that we have a roof over our head and to make sure that we're clothed.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I understand that now. So everything that I do is ultimately to repay her for the ultimate sacrifice that she made. Because when you have kids,
That's
and
beautiful.
sometimes you have to put your dreams on hold because you now
Hmm.
have someone to look after. And so for me, that is the reason behind everything I do, is to support and love my mother for making an ultimate sacrifice for me. And I know that can't be easy when you lose you lose your partner.
Partner, yes.
I would
And
say
your
that
third?
third most important thing. Um, I say third most important thing. It's really just your mindset. You really
Okay.
can achieve anything that you want in this world. If you are unhappy where you are in your life, if you are unhappy with your finances, your credit, your your job, your career,
Hmm.
right? You can change that. It doesn't have to be your reality forever.
It
You know,
doesn't.
I talk about that a lot in business credit because some people, you know, they tell me, "Oh, I had a bankruptcy, I had a judgment, I had." Okay, with business credit, they don't see that. That's all on the personal side, and that's what I love about business credit. So it's just like it doesn't matter if you went through a divorce and that affected your credit, or maybe you were in a hospital and you were sick for several months and you couldn't pay your bills, right? Things happen.
Hmm.
Don't
Life
let that
happens.
things happen, lives happen. Don't let that hold you back from what you want. It could be a temporary setback. It could take a year or two to get things back in order
Hmm.
after a major event like that happens. But just never give up that belief that you can do this. You can have anything you want in this world. Just because I was born and raised in the inner city of Cleveland doesn't mean that I have to be limited by any sort of opportunities, right? It doesn't matter
Hmm.
where I was born and raised. It didn't matter that I was not born into wealth or a wealthy family. You can still obtain that for yourself.
Yes, you
So
can.
it doesn't, I mean, maybe the circumstances that you were born into were not the best, like mine, but that doesn't mean you can't achieve things in life. I don't let that stop me. If anything, it inspires me
And
to
it
say, okay,
should.
I grew up in a rough area, to say
Yes.
it nicely, um, where there's a lot of despair, right, and not a lot of encouragement. But there's a community there, there's people there, and there's a lot of hope. And
And a
so
lot of love come
and a
from
lot
those
of love. And so
communities.
to me, your circumstances that you were born and raised in don't determine where you would end up in life. And so
Yes.
it's all about the mindset. Once you make up your mind and determine that you want to do something, and you just go for it. And no matter how many times you fall, there's plenty of times where I spell stuff wrong. I mean, I have made so many mistakes, but
And
it's
that's
like, you know
going to
what?
happen.
Right.
Yes.
Like getting it done is better than being perfect. Because when you're perfect, you're on a fence. You don't want to start. You don't want to pull the trigger. You're waiting on this. I'm waiting until I get my finances together. Wait until my kids grow up. I'm waiting for that. There is never going to be a perfect day to do
You
anything.
just have to do it.
You got to take
So,
that leap of faith and jump.
yes. So we are going to wind it up now. Give our listeners how they can contact you, Excel Capital Group. Give them
Yeah.
your social media and a contact number where they can contact you. And I want all the listeners to write this down as she says it.
Perfect. So my company is called Excel Capital Group. We're headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. In terms of our social media, you can find us on Facebook. So Excel Capital Group on Facebook. I have all sorts of funding videos on there. If you want to know about business credit, you want to know about a DUNS number, you want to learn about other funding options, I have all sorts of free videos on the Facebook page. I also have Instagram, and I'm always giving away funding tips and advice. So if you want to know about grants, you want to know about, other funding opportunities, be sure to follow me on social media. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel as well. I also have my website, which is excelcapitalgroupllc.com. Again, that's excelcapitalgroupllc.com. You can go there and join our email list. And so on that email list, I send out newsletters once a week to provide all type of funding opportunities. So if you want to know what's going on with grants that's coming up, what's going on with SBA, what's going on with other funding options, be sure to join the email list. That's a free newsletter that goes out on a weekly basis to keep you up to date on various funding opportunities. Then on top of that, on the website, you can schedule a consultation, which is a free funding
Mhm.
consultation. So if you are an entrepreneur, you need funding for your business, you could set up a time, you can schedule right on the website, and we can discuss your business in more detail to help you obtain financing for your business. And then we have our business credit program. So if you want to learn how to build business credit with your EIN, you can go to the website, click on the tab, Build Business Credit, and you will see the options to help get you started. And so the phone number to reach out to us is 312-668-8788. Again, that's 312-668-8788. So if you want to learn how to build business credit with your EIN or obtain capital, feel free to reach out to me. You can also send us an email, which is info@excelcapitalgroupllc.com. Again, that's info@excelcapitalgroupllc.com.
Well, once again, I hope that everyone wrote that down. I hope as many listeners would share this information at work with family and friends. And if you ever wanted to know about how to become wealthy, how to get business funding, credit funding, and how to flip homes or multi units, this is the lady here to contact, Miss LaToya Jackson. She has a wealth of knowledge. She's been in business. She's been doing this for 7 years. And once again, her company is Excel Capital Group. Go to her website. Say your website once again, Mrs. Jackson, please.
Sure, it's excelcapitalgroupllc.com. Again, that's excelcapitalgroupllc.com.
LaToya, I want to thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule, for coming on to the Diamond Girls podcast. I look forward to the future and interviewing you again. I look forward to recommending young ladies, because here in Michigan, we do have a lot of young ladies that I partner with that are looking to learn about investing and learn about how they can get business capital. So I look forward to doing business with you in the future. And thank you once again for being our featured guest this week on the Diamond Girls Rock podcast. Once again, to all of our listeners, we want to thank you for listening and enjoy your weekend.